Good morning, Year 12s. Today we're going to be looking at the subtopic Evolution and Natural Selection. This is a 2-video PowerPoint, part of the evolution topic. Today we're going to be focusing on just the evolution side of things. In the next video we'll look at the natural selection side of the topic. So let's start that now. So first off, genetic variation and how genetic variation takes place via mutations. So some definitions we're going to go through. Some you might remember from ecosystems last year. So a population, first off, a population is a group of organisms of the same species living in the same location at the same time. Now the individuals in that population will have similar but not identical genomes. Remembering genomes is just the layout of all the genes in an organism. What genetic variation is changes in the genotype of a population over time. Now, those genetic variations can result from gene or chromosomal mutations. A mutation is a permanent change in the nucleotide sequence of DNA that will give rise to new alleles. Now, most alleles only have 1 or 2 nucleotide changes, and the example that we normally use is sickle cell anemia, which is a 1 nucleotide change, which causes obviously a massive, drastic effect. We also have genetic variation due to sexual reproduction, and that's all due to fertilization and meiosis. Obviously, that's only going to happen in species that reproduce sexually, and it's ensured based on crossing over, independent assortment, and the fusion of gametes during meiosis. So remembering that crossing over is when you've got your homologous chromosomes lining up in meiosis, and the 2 homologous chromosomes will kind of overlap like that, and then they'll exchange genetic material, making them brand new, making them completely new collections of genes, almost that's never been seen before. Independent assortment is when the homologous chromosomes, there's no order in which the orientation of they'll line up. So sometimes you have maternal on this side, paternal on this side. Other times it'll be paternal on this side, maternal on that side, and each homologous chromosome has no effect on the other homologous chromosome, so it's going to be different every time. And obviously then just the fusion, which gametes will fuse together, that all ensures genetic variation. So gene pool, what is a gene pool? A gene pool is the set of all genes in a population at a given time. So the gene pool has to include all genes and all alleles, and it gives a good example of the genetic diversity in the population. So we could be looking over here, and we've got lots of different genes. Every color is a different gene, and different allele as well. So lots of, or some variation in that diagram over there. Obviously, a large gene pool will have extensive genetic diversity, and therefore it's going to have populations of healthy individuals that will be able to survive selection pressures. Remember, selection pressure is just a factor that limits population growth. Whereas a smaller gene pool is going to have low genetic diversity, and consequently the risk of extinction is greater because they've got less chance of surviving those selection pressures. Lastly, competition and biological fitness. So we know that individuals in a population have to compete for resources. Those resources could be food, habitats, mates, lots of different things. The fact that competition is there ensures that only a small number of the population will be able to survive and reproduce. There's not going to be enough resources for everyone. Which ones survive is chosen through the characteristics that individuals have, and those characteristics obviously make them better at competing for those resources. If they're better at competing for those resources, that gives them a greater chance of survival. If they survive, they're going to have a chance of reproducing. We also use the term biological fitness for that, and basically it's the ability to survive long enough to reproduce and pass on genes to offspring. So biological fitness, being able to survive against your other organisms in the population, allowing you to survive and reproduce, therefore your genes being passed on.